Some concern there on your deliveries. How far away are we from supply chain snags being resolved and getting anywhere near back to the peak of 2019?
Well, I would say we're getting close to it. So first of all, I think the good news is we had a delivery target of 770 planes for 2024. We got very, very close to it with 766. So that shows we were able to deliver on what we had promised for 2024. And you said it, we have a delivery target of around 820 planes for 25. So that is an uplift of over 20 planes. But more importantly, it's fully in line with the trajectory that we've given ourselves also for the year to come. We want to go to a monthly production rate of 75 aircraft for our best-selling A320 model, and we're on the trajectory to achieve that. Now, to your question, supply chain definitely is still the limiting factor, and that is true for a number of items. Maybe engines is the most prominent one. But it really goes far beyond that. It's also cabin interior, aerostructures, et cetera, and therefore, yes, we're very, very focused to be super close to our tier 1, but also tier 2 and tier 3 suppliers to support them and detect if there's any issues that we can resolve with them together. And therefore, yes, that is clearly what we're absolutely focused on to make sure that the ramp up is really happening.
Thomas, you delivered about 150 aircraft to the U.S. last year. We're wondering if you're looking at what we're hearing from the White House every day from Donald Trump. What are your thoughts on Airbus level of preparation for potential tariffs, and also what are the scenarios that you're working with as you're trying to prepare for such an environment?
Yes, I think, clearly it's quite difficult to prepare for a concrete scenario, but I think part of the answer is to remind you that we have a production site in Mobile, Alabama. We've got over 5,000 people in our U.S. team, and we're extremely proud of that team. So we're delivering out of the United States into the U.S. from our Mobile site. And we're not only producing the A320, but also the A220 at that site. So therefore, I would say the global footprint that we have with a very, very strong presence in the United States that we've built over the recent years is already part of the answer. But it's true, Nina, if you think about tariffs for the industry, it will have a negative impact in our view, because the entire aerospace industry is a global industry. It has a very global, highly integrated supply chain that is in the phase of ramping up, and therefore tariffs would certainly be, on the one hand, a negative for the industry. But we also think that in the end, it will affect negatively our customers. So ultimately, the tariffs, it is the airlines that will have to pay for it. And therefore, it would be a double negative in our view. In terms of level of preparedness, I think we've done a lot in the past through our footprint. And we're waiting for the exact scenario that will then finally play out.
Could you expand the existing facility that you have in the U.S. in order to potentially produce more aircraft here in the U.S.? And has Airbus been in touch with the Trump administration at all?
I think we're looking forward, of course, to work with the administration. That question on whether we're expanding really depends on the exact regime that will then be specified and decided. As I said, it's a highly complex and integrated supply chain, also with parts coming in from Canada, for example, in our Mobile site. So the effects really go both ways, and the question of whether it makes sense to expand it or, in other ways, rebalance our production really depends on what finally is decided in terms of the tariff regime.
Thomas, just quickly there, I want to follow up on what Nina said. Have you spoken to the Trump administration, you or the rest of the team, in trying to work out any sort of exemptions or deals?
No, I think we're not working specifically on exemptions for Airbus. We're absolutely respecting whatever will be taken in terms of decision. We're in contact, but quite frankly, I think it's really the U.S. administration who has to come to a decision. But we're clearly making our point that in our view, it's not about Airbus only, but the entire industry would not be positively affected through tariffs.
Thomas, the other thing this industry has to contend with, and you especially sitting in the heart of Europe, is what it means for this new world of European defense, one in which Donald Trump calls Volodymyr Zelensky a dictator, and Europe feels more on its own when it comes to defense. I know you've had some snags when it comes to some of your military aircrafts, but do you see more demand? Will your defense business be growing in Europe as a result of this geopolitical moment?
I think the clear answer is yes. If you look at the order intake in our defense business, we have had a record order intake in 2024 with 16.8 billion, and it's actually the second year in a row that we have a record in terms of order intake. So it shows that we're well positioned with our products, with the Eurofighter in our military air business, but also with our satellites and other military devices that we produce. So therefore, we stand ready to step up in what I think is a clear need for Europe to be more self-sustained in its sovereign ability. And therefore, Airbus clearly is prepared to help here. And we're also seeing good signs in terms of the order intake that we had in 2024.
Thomas, you're a German working at a large European company that has a US competitor. What's your outlook for the European economy and also for Germany, where we'll have elections this Sunday?
Well, I think it would clearly be helpful for Europe as a whole if we will have more stability. I think that's true for Germany, where I think it is about time that we have clarity about who will be the new government, but also more stability in other countries in Europe would certainly be helpful. I think we as an industry are ready to support many of the proposals that have been made. I refer, for example, to the Draghi report, which has a special chapter not only in defense, but also on space, calling for more consolidation, not only on the supply side in Europe, but also on the demand side. So I would say the proposals also from that perspective are on the table. We clearly support it, and it would be good if now there is also the political will and power to put some of these things now into practice.
Thomas, just quickly here, and look, we've been hinting at it, but it feels like a moment of step change for Europe, especially with transatlantic relationships, both from an economic point of view with tariffs and geopolitical. You having been at the helm of industry in Europe for some time now, is Europe prepared for this moment?
Well, I think it's hard to say whether it is prepared. I think Europe has the ingredients that it needs, both from an industrial side, but also, of course, from the, let's say, the GDP power that we have in order to step up. What I think it takes is the political will and the ability to now implement those steps. To your question, is it prepared? I think it is fair to say that what happened in the recent past is a clear wake-up call, and I'm hopeful that Europe will act on that call. The level of preparedness, I think, could probably be better, but I do see promising signs that Europe is taking up the challenge.